As you may or may not know, the executive branch in our government currently holds more power than the other branches. It is not supposed to be this way. There's supposed to be a separation of powers between the branches. The executive branch consists of the president and his cabinet. U.S. President Donald Trump, Vice President Mike Pence, Acting Secretary of State John J. Sullivan, Secretary of the Treasury Steve Mnuchin, Secretary of Defense James Mattis, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zink, Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue, Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, Secretary of Labor Alex Acosta, Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Ben Carson, Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao, Secretary of Energy Rick Perry, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Veterans Robert Wilkie, Secretary of Homeland Security Christian Nilsson.
The topic having to do with executive orders that we are arguing today has to do with the powers that are granted to the executive branch. These powers are given through the Constitution. Some of these powers include the power to either sign or veto a bill, to conduct diplomacy with other nations, which involves the power to negotiate and sign treaties. The president can also issue executive orders to further push existing laws. The president also has unlimited power to extend pardons for federal crimes, except in cases of impeachment. As we well know, the head of the executive branch is the president, and one of his responsibilities is to appoint the heads of the departments of the United States. These 15 have to be approved by 2/3 vote from the Senate, but the president has free power to fire the members of the cabinet whenever he wants, with the exception of his vice president. This alone could provide the possibility of corruption happening within the executive branch. The members of cabinet may do some of the things they do solely to keep their position, especially with Trump being as trigger-happy as he is. For example, Rex Tillerson, Secretary of State, resigned. Tom Bossert, Homeland Security Advisor, was fired, and he also fired his personal assistant early on. The Vice President has the responsibility of taking over all the powers granted to the President in cases of disability and death. The President is also the President of the United States Senate and has the power of the deciding vote to break a tie. This alone shows that the power between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches is unbalanced, as he has commanding power of the Senate. The 15 cabinet members have superior power over their departments on a federal level. For example, the Secretary of Education could cut funding to all German classes in public schools nationwide and put all of that funding towards German classes in charter or public schools.
So what do our founding fathers have to say about the separation of powers? James Madison was inspired by Montesquieu's ideas of separation of power. Montesquieu's famous quote regarding the issue reads, "Were the executive power not to have a right of restraining the encroachments of the legislative body, the latter would become despotic. For as it might arrogate itself what authority it pleased, it would soon destroy all other powers."
In the case of Trump's Twitter, a lot of people think that what he tweets are considered policy or law automatically. This, however, is not true. While Donald Trump's Twitter account tweets official statements from Trump himself, these are not official statements of law and policy. Citizens should not automatically trust these and should wait for official statements and reports from trusted government websites.
Here are some classic examples of Trump tweets that should maybe not be taken very seriously. Now that the 3 basketball players are out of China and safe from years in jail, LeVar Ball, the father of LiAngelo, is unaccepting of what I did for his son, and that shoplifting is no big deal. I should have left him in jail. After devastating hurricanes in Puerto Rico, here's what the president had to say. Such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan and others in Puerto Rico who are not able to get their workers to help. In addition to winning the Electoral College in a landslide, I won the popular vote if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally. And lastly, the highly controversial tweet about military and transgenders. After consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military. Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming victory and cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical costs and disruptions that transgender in the military would entail. Thank you. Although this may not seem like a big deal, it's slowly leading our government towards mass corruption and goes against everything that we stand for as Americans. Thank you.